Welcome to the Couch Scouts Podcast. We provide league-winning analysis, advice, and tools to help you dominate your league and build a dynasty. Scout, draft, win. Here's your host, Matt Cooper.
Welcome to the Couch Scouts Podcast, episode 46. I am your host, Matt Cooper. With me is my co-host, Matt Rupert.
How you doing?
And Matt Jackson.
What's going on, guys?
This weekend, we had real football in the NFL as week one started. Good to have the NFL back. What did you guys do on Sunday?
Admittedly, I had a youth group event Sunday, and we had some outdoor baptisms, so I didn't get to watch nearly as much football Sunday as I wanted to. Found myself going back and watching a lot of streams and cut-ups later of games, but it was still a good day. So glad to have week one action and real football back.
Yeah, I didn't get to see any live games on Sunday. I was rented a cabin in the mountains with some friends, and so we're just like wrapping up our last day doing that, taking the kids, going to mine some gyms and eat some food and then head on home, and then that late evening unpacking and getting the kids ready for bed and everything like that. I was just like wiped out. So I didn't watch any games, but thank goodness for NFL Plus where you can watch some condensed games.
Well, aren't you guys great with your real life and being good husbands and good dads? My butt was firmly planted on the couch, and I was watching football all day long. So
that was my last week of college football. So I felt like I couldn't do that to my wife 2 weeks in a row.
Yeah. Well, I made it about 5 minutes into the Panthers game, and I was like, all right, we're doing red zone. I can't do it, man. I'm a Panthers fan, but I'm sorry. No, I can't do it. So
the boys are going to have the number one overall draft pick for the next 3 or 4 years.
at least we have our own draft pick now.
Thank goodness.
We're going to need it. All right. On tonight's episode, we are going to be going over all the important things that we noticed in week one action around the league, as well as playing a fun game of overreaction, underreaction, because look, week one, you come in, everything that we thought we knew didn't happen the way we thought it would happen. And so what else is there to do but overreact? That's what we do as a fantasy community. So we're going to maybe on some of these things, maybe we'll tell you, hey, let's pump the brakes. Let's not overreact. But we're going to get into it. So I'm excited. And as we get into the show, just wanted to let you guys know, this is pretty exciting. The last month plus, we've been saying, hey, we're going to be launching our own website. We're going to be launching our own website. Well, guess what? It launched on Thursday. So now I can say we did launch our own website. Boom. Yeah. So CouchScouts.com. We have our own website, and you can subscribe. You can become a member. You can join the Couch Scouts, and you're going to want to because there's a lot of awesome stuff packed into that subscription. We have an all 22 film room with college prospects. And you could go in there, watch Jeremiah Smith every snap from his first game. We're going to have his week 2 game up there pretty soon. Ashton Genty's game against Oregon this weekend, we got every snap. Ted McMillan's big 4-touchdown game from week 1 of college football, we got it. And we're just going to keep adding more and more and more as the year goes on. So if you want to get in there and scout every snap, all 22 coaches tape, that's the best place to do it. We also have a bonus podcast. So even tonight, after we finish recording this show, we're going to get on and record a bonus episode for subscribers only, and that's going to be up on the site by the end of the night. We've already got one up from last week, so you definitely want to get in on that, and all kinds of other good stuff on the site too. So check it out, CouchScouts.com, and look forward to having you guys join us. So let's get into it. NFL Week 1. We're going to start with a little bit of news. Jordan Love suffered an injury against the Eagles at the very end of the game. I actually think I dozed off on my couch at the end of the game, woke up the next morning to see everybody was worried that he might have torn his ACL. The news is his ACL is still intact, it sounds like. So that's good. Are you guys buying a potential dip on Jordan Love?
I mean, for me, I'm not sure how much of a potential dip you're going to get. Personally, I mean, we know who Jordan Love has been the last year and a half or so, and it's been a really, really good quarterback. So if anybody is panicking, maybe teams that potentially thought that, hey, I was going to be a championship contending team, and now I've lost, one of my quarterbacks in a super flex leagues. Yeah, I'm going to inquire about that all day long because Jordan Love, he's going to miss some time. Owners might get a little frustrated, but I don't envision there being a huge dip, right? I mean, he's still a great quarterback. If you can get him at a little bit of a cheaper price, though, I'm there all day for that.
Rupert, any thoughts there?
100% agree. Just I don't foresee much of a dip, but unless there's a contender that is shallow at quarterback. So if there's opportunity, I take it. I just don't foresee people freaking out that much.
Yeah, so short-term injury, we don't know. They haven't given an exact number of weeks that he's going to miss or anything like that, but they didn't put him on IR, which means they expect it to be less than 4 weeks, I think. And it is an MCL sprain. He did not tear anything. So I agree with you guys. So let's get into our main segment for the night. We're going to be talking overreaction or underreaction. So I'm going to run through some statements here. And you guys are going to have to tell me, do you think that this statement is an overreaction to what happened in week 1 or an underreaction? And we're going to start with Saquon Barkley. And the statement is this: Saquon Barkley is back to a top-end RB1 in Dynasty following his performance against the Packers. Is that an overreaction or an underreaction? We'll start with you, Rupert.
Be a bit of a cop-out answer, but I think that's just the correct reaction, right? I think he is a top-end RB1 now that he's out of that dumpster fire of the Giants offense and being behind a poor offensive line for the last 4 or 5 years. He actually has a pretty solid offensive line in front of him and a good offense, receivers on the outside, really good quarterback. So I think he's finally in a really good situation where he can thrive and, consistently put up those RB1 numbers.
Yeah, I mean, I agree with you. I guess my question is, did he ever stop being a dynasty RB1? I mean, he definitely never dropped out of the top 12 in ADP rankings. I believe he finished top 12 last year, even on the Giants. And but he looks like not only is he at RB1 in the sense of top 12, but he could be the RB1. Maybe that would probably be an overreaction to say that because of this week he's going to be the RB1. But I think it's in the realm of possibilities. I mean, what did he put? 30+ fantasy points, massive workload, just looked super explosive. So
I think what was interesting with him is he was getting the goal line touches, right? On a team that would normally just QB sneak, tush push Jalen Hurts into the end zone, Saquon Barkley was getting those touches in the red zone. So I think that bodes well for what his future success could be for that team.
Yeah. All right, let's get into our next statement here. Mark Andrews is no longer the tight end 1 on his own team. Isaiah Likely is now the tight end to own in Dynasty. Is that an overreaction or an underreaction? We'll start with you, Jack.
I'm going to say that's a little bit of an overreaction. Look, Isaiah Likely had a fantastic game last week. When you watch the game, a lot of what was happening on the defensive front was scheming defenders over to Mark Andrews. I don't think he's going to be that consistent top 1 or 2 guy anymore. I mean, Isaiah Likely's proven himself that he's going to take away touches and he's going to get the receptions, but he's still a great tight end. I think that he hasn't fallen out of the realm of being a tight end 1. That's a huge overreaction from me. I mean, you saw some of the same things in the career, the late career of Zach Ertz, right? Where Dallas Goedert was coming in and he was taking some of those touches away, but Zach Ertz was still getting his. I think some of the same thing is kind of happening here. So I'm going to go overreaction there.
Rupert, any additional thoughts?
Yeah, I agree. It's overreaction to me. Shout out to Andy Holloway at the Footballers. He had a really good thread. Just kind of detailing every snap pretty much. He was bracket coverage. Anytime he would go down the field, he had 2 guys on him. And that was the Chiefs game plan this game, as well as the last couple times that they played. They've just tried to eliminate Mark Andrews and let anyone else beat them. In this game, it was Isaiah Likely. He looked phenomenal in this game. Very explosive, incredible yards after a catch. So, like Jackson said, he's going to definitely take some touches away from Andrew. I still think he's, a higher end tight end, but I think the days of him potentially finishing as tight end 1 are over.
Yeah, I think if the statement had been Mark Andrews is no longer a top 5 tight end moving forward, I would have probably agreed with that statement and said not an overreaction. Similar because of what you said, Jackson, about the Zach Ertz, Dallas Goedert effect. It's like I think Isaiah Likely is clearly going to be involved and be a major part of the offense moving forward, which is naturally going to limit Andrews' upside in fantasy. And they're going to kind of, I think there will be Mark Andrews weeks where he goes off, and there will be Isaiah Likely weeks where he goes off. It might be frustrating and hard to predict for fantasy managers. They might even both finish as top 12 tight ends in fantasy football this year. But Mark Andrews, I don't think is going to be that guy now that is like this 18 fantasy points per game, tight end 1 on the year. Like, I just don't think that that's in the realm of possibilities now that Isaiah Likely has come into his own as a major weapon on that offense. So
somebody just needs to tell Isaiah Likely to wear a smaller shoe size. That's my biggest criticism for him.
That heel got him for sure. All right, so let's move into our next one here with Kirk Cousins looking as immobile as he did on Sunday. And if you didn't catch it, man, he did not look healthy coming off that Achilles tear. So with Kirk Cousins being as immobile as he was, Michael Penix will be a starter for the Falcons by week 5. Is that an overreaction or an underreaction? Jackson, we'll start with you.
I think that's it's going back kind of what the Rupert did. It feels kind of like a cop-out a little bit, right? But it feels like the correct reaction. I guess for the sake of the game, I'm going to go underreaction, just strictly on how bad Kirk Cousins looked. He did not look healthy from that injury. I've never seen a quarterback make as many throws. I mean, it seemed like every time he got the ball, he would drop back 3 steps and throw it. Like, he was not moving outside of the pocket. He didn't look healthy. And that team has got some weapons, right? I mean, that offense can roll if it gets the right guy behind at the helm. Listen, we were all shocked in the rookie draft when the Falcons took Michael Penix in the first round. I don't think anybody can sit here and say that was something they expected to have happen. If you're going to take a guy that high up in the NFL draft, eventually, if your quarterback is not looking healthy, if he's not looking good, you're going to have to play said quarterback that you drafted. And I think that's going to happen sooner rather than later.
Yeah, I think unless Kirk shows significant improvement or they find ways to win anyway in spite of him, I mean, I got to go with underreaction here too, which is crazy. If you'd have told me this statement before week 1, I would have told you you're nuts. They just paid Kirk Cousins all this money. They're locked in for a couple years. But just the way that he looked, like, unless there's significant improvement, I just don't. I mean, they get a brutal schedule. They got the Eagles and the Chiefs the next 2 weeks. They could easily be 0-3. And then if you drop 2 winnable division games against the Saints and the Bucks, you're 0-5, and Kirk is still looking like a shell of himself. I think there's going to be a ton of pressure from fans, from everybody to start the guy that you took top 8 in the draft. Do you see it that way, Rupert? Are you team underreaction too here?
Underreaction for sure. I think a lot of people forget that Kirk Cousins tore his Achilles on week 8 last year. I feel like people are treating it a lot like the Rodgers situation where he tore it 4 plays into week 1. He was like halfway through the season when he tore his Achilles. So I think he's still got a long time until he's going to be healthy. Is very evident in some end zone shots where has a clean pocket. He hits his back foot and he can't put any weight on his right Achilles. He can't put any weight to drive the ball, nothing. So I definitely think it's an underreaction. They seem to have rushed him back for sure.
All right, so next, after Sunday's game, head coach of the Seahawks, Mike McDonald, compared the ability of Bo Nix to Drew Brees And I don't know if he just said that because of the Sean Payton factor or what, but is that an underreaction or an overreaction to you guys? I'm laughing.
Oh, like, what are we doing? Like that's an underreaction, obviously.
What?
Like,
what are we doing? Like, why is I'm saying, what are you doing putting this on the show sheet, Matt Jackson?
look, you need a little bit of you need comedic relief during a show.
Comedic relief.
This is our comedic relief.
This is an overreaction. Bo Nix was terrible on Sunday. Drew Brees is an all-time great. Come on.
I read that quote today and my jaw
let's just leave it at that.
Dropped.
I mean, when you put it on the show sheet, I was like, did he really say that? I had to go look it up. But all right, we can move on. That one doesn't need a whole lot of our time here. So next statement here. Adonai Mitchell finished Sunday's game with only 1 catch for 2 yards. Mitchell is not one of the top options that we thought he would be coming into the season. Is that an overreaction or an underreaction? We'll start with you, Rupert.
That's definitely an overreaction for me. If you're just looking at the box score, you can build that narrative. But if you watch the tape, like he was torching guys, he was wide open for 2 touchdowns, and Anthony Richardson just, threw some balls like out of bounds, nowhere close to where he was, which is a little bit worrying for Anthony Richardson, seeing him just, miss a guy that, had 20 yards of separation. But I'm still very bullish on Mitchell going forward. I may try and buy this dip if there is one in the next couple weeks. I do think that once Downs is back, it's going to hurt his production this year, but I think just long term, there's just too much talent there.
I mean, this is why you don't box score scout, right? I mean, it's easy to look at a box score and build whatever narrative you want to build. If you watch the game, that game could have gone completely different for Adonai Mitchell. You mentioned the 2 wide open touchdown passes he just didn't get. You ring in those 2 touchdown passes and you're having a completely different conversation right now about Adonai Mitchell. And it's not like that was his fault, right? He was wide open and the quarterback missed him. So, I mean, overreaction for sure. Adonai Mitchell, his talent is still going to win out consistently. So if there is any dip, that's a guy that I'm looking to target.
I think there almost would have to be after a one catch for 2-yard performance, depending on the manager. But yeah, and this isn't just take lock from us. Like, oh, we liked him and we're not willing to admit that we were wrong. Like, I'll admit when I'm wrong. Brian Thomas looks way better than I thought, and looks like he's going to be a star in fantasy. And I have no shares because I did not like him at all at cost. I'll throw out another example. Javon Baker is one that, obviously it's too early to say that it's for sure never going to happen for him, but like healthy scratch, didn't look great in the preseason, didn't make the most of his opportunities. Javon Baker is not looking like he's going to be the 3rd round steal that we thought he might be. But in this case with Adonai Mitchell, I think the box score doesn't tell the whole story. I really think the talent is absolutely there, and he looks like he can be a high-level player in the NFL and for fantasy. He was out there for the majority of the offensive snaps. He was winning against coverage. Better days are ahead. And so, yeah, rookie year, Pierce was more involved than I thought he would be. Downs is going to return at some point. Might be a little bit feast or famine. But at some point, he's got the talent. He's going to establish himself as a star player in this league. I really believe that. So we're going to do one more overreaction, underreaction, and then we've got another fun segment to finish off the show. So the Chargers, from an offensive standpoint, had a mostly terrible showing, apart from Dobbins. Shout out JK. Going to talk more about him in a minute. Even with the Chargers offense looking pretty mid, Ladd McConkey led the team in receptions, targets, yards, and scored the only receiving touchdown. Once this offense gets rolling, here's the statement. Ladd McConkey will finish as a high-end wide receiver 2, borderline wide receiver 1 this season. Is that an overreaction or an underreaction? And we're going to go to you, Rupert.
I think it's the correct reaction. I do think that's kind of where he's going to end up being. I don't think he's going to be, a Puka Nacua of last year and be a top 5 wide receiver. But I think his range of outcomes is that borderline wide receiver 1, high end wide receiver 2 this year. And I'm just really excited to see him look good in the first game. And the Chargers offensive line looked phenomenal. And I think their offensive production is only going to go up as they get more used to the system and kind of go through the season.
Yeah, he finished as the wide receiver 19 this week, in the very first week of his very first game as an NFL professional, with the offense throwing for like less than 200 passing yards. So, yeah, I think if wide receiver 19 is what he does under those circumstances, I think high-end wide receiver 2 is easily within his range of outcomes.
I mean, when Quentin Johnston's the second leading receiver on your team, I mean, not much competition there, right? Like, I was surprised he caught balls, to be honest with you. But we're not talking about Quentin Johnston as much as
No, but you can't resist taking a shot, though, can you?
I cannot.
All right, so we are going to get into our next segment here. And before we do, I just wanted to take a quick break to shout out our Discord. So we mentioned the website earlier, and these two things really go hand in hand. The Discord, we're trying to build a community. So this is not just content that you can get on here and consume, but we want to get to know you guys. And so we've got a community of over 90 people on our Discord. Game day chat was buzzing on Sunday, just kind of reacting to plays as they're happening, reacting to news, posting trades for people to give their thoughts on people's trade offers, all kinds of stuff. It's a really fun community. It's totally free. We'd love to have you join it. So if you check out CouchScouts.com, you'll find a link to our Discord on the website. If you're watching on YouTube, Apple, Spotify, it'll be in the show notes. So if you're on Twitter, just check out CouchScouts.com and you can find the Discord link there. But would love to have you guys come hop in our community and be part of the Couch Scouts. So let's move into our final segment here. And this is things that made us happy and things that made us sad, which we get a ton of new information week 1, right? Like we have all these things that we think are probably going to happen a certain way. And then the actual NFL games start, and there's always these wild, crazy, totally unexpected things that happen. And some of those surprises are good surprises, pleasant surprises, some not so much. So we're going to start out, we're each going to share one surprise that made us sad this week. And then we're going to share one surprise that made us happy this week. So we get to end with the good news, end on a happy note. But we're going to start with the sad surprises here. And we'll start with you, Jackson. What was your sad surprise from week 1?
Look, I don't know what I expected from the Titans offense on Sunday when they were playing the Bears, but I expected more than I got from them. Coming in, Will Levis was a guy that I at least know you, Rupert, were pretty excited to see what he was going to do. New offensive coordinator. He had some new wide receivers to throw the ball to. Looked like that offense was going to take a real step in the direction of being a passing attack more than it's been, a rushing attack under Derrick Henry. What we ended up seeing was a Will Levis that was just super inaccurate. Couldn't really do much with the ball. They only threw for 127 yards that game. Will Levis tossed 2 interceptions. I mean, just the passing offense as a whole was just so atrocious. I didn't expect a whole lot from them because, I'm still not a huge Will Levis guy, but I expected way more than we got from him. So I was left feeling super disappointed about that game.
Yeah, I'm not that surprised or disappointed, to be honest. I was kind of like anything. If Will Levis, the bigger surprise for me would have been if Will Levis came out and just balled out and was like, oh, maybe I was totally wrong about him as a prospect. But I didn't think he looked that great. He had the one good 4-touchdown game in his very first start, I think it was, where he was just throwing up lobs to D-Hop and he was catching everything and making Will Levis look really good. And then really for the rest of his starts last year, I thought Will Levis looked pretty rough, exactly the way I thought he would. And this week for me
the only good thing The only good thing that the Titans gave us this week was that Will Levis meme.
Yeah. I mean, I know they brought in Calvin Ridley and they brought in Tony Pollard and they like set up everything around him. But we've seen time and time again that doesn't matter if the quarterback can't get it done. And so, like, yeah, he's young, he's got the arm talent. Was there a chance that he really developed this offseason and came in and was great? Yeah, that possibility was absolutely on the table. But this is kind of more in line with what I personally was expecting from Levis and the Titans. What about you, Rupert?
Yeah, it was a lot of the same, just like poor decision making. It's kind of like that Jameis Winston. Just kind of like, I'll just chuck it up there and see what happens kind of stuff, which, you know, when their defense was playing lights out, like you just can't do that kind of stuff. And the quote from the coach was pretty brutal, I guess.
Yeah.
Where he said that they would have been better off just punting on 1st and 10 every single drive for the whole game. Like,
I mean, like they were up 17-0 in the fourth quarter, right? And then and that interception that he threw, like he's in a clean pocket and instead of stepping up in the pocket, he rushes into pressure and then does whatever that flip thing was that he tried to do. It's like the pick six that lost the game for them. That was completely unforced error, like totally avoidable mistake. So yeah. All right, let's move on. That was Jackson's surprise that made him sad. The rest of us weren't surprised. But Rupert, what was your surprise that made you sad, man?
I was just shocked at the amount of atrocious football there was. I feel like it's an effect of only having 3 preseason games now. Just the teams and offense not being ready, because typically the defenses get, you know, up to speed quicker than the offenses do. And there was just so much bad offensive football this week, so many fantasy duds. Just to kind of drive the point home, there's 14 quarterbacks that started that got less than 12 points. Like, it was just brutal. There's so many, particularly on most of my rosters, it seemed like so many duds and guys that got like 4 points and under. It was just like, come on. It was a bad week of offensive football, but you know, hopefully the offenses catch up to the defenses as the year goes on.
Yeah, so I don't have the tweet in front of me for the exact stat, but I saw that the average passing yards across the NFL was, I think it was less than 200 passing yards for all 32 NFL teams, and it was the lowest that we've seen in, like, I don't remember what year. I wish I had it in front of me, but yeah, it was historically bad first week in terms of passing yardage, especially for this modern era. Like, you expect records to keep just getting broken every year in terms of more and more and more passing yards. This was rough. So I'll finish out here with my surprise that made me sad this week. And I think this surprised pretty much everybody and made pretty much everybody sad. And that is Marvin Harrison Jr. with only 1 catch on 3 targets. That he just was, and I haven't gotten a chance to go back and look at the all 22 and see, was he winning on his routes? Was Kyler just not looking his way? Like, what's the deal there? And I don't have an answer for it, but I believe in the talent. So I'm not going to panic after 1 week, but like 3 targets, I thought he'd be a lot more involved in the offense than that. And hopefully this is just a fluke and an anomaly, and he's right back to being the guy that the prospect that we know he is starting next week. I mean, they spent a top 5 pick on him. He needs more than 3 targets, but
I will say that he was wide open for a touchdown on 1 play, and Kyler just completely missed him. One thing that I did notice, because I watched a little of that game, effort level just seemed like it really wasn't there for Harrison. I don't know if he expected guys just to like accept that he's one of the greatest wide receivers to ever get drafted and just kind of give up and let him do his thing. But he didn't look like he wanted to play grown man football. And I know that that's an anomaly because we watched this film in college. I never saw that. So that was a little shocking to me that he didn't look like he was trying 100% on every single play.
Interesting. Yeah, I don't know because I mean, like I said, I was watching on Red Zone, so I saw um, bits and pieces when they would come on screen, but I haven't gone back and like intensively watched his tape. So hopefully better days ahead for Marvin Harrison Jr. So let's end on a happy note. All right, we're gonna go with for each of us is gonna share one surprise that made us happy this week, and we'll go kind of quick here. We won't react to each other's. We'll just share what we got, and I'll start. And that was Dobbins looking explosive, man. I mean, just so good to see that. I mean, for one thing, because I have like 38% ownership share on my across my double digit dynasty rosters. Like I have a lot of J.K. Dobbins shares, but mostly just like for him as a human being, the rough stretch of injuries that he has had early in his career, and he's so talented. And um, I think most people had left him for dead because, I mean, the fact is historically most people don't come back and look explosive after an Achilles tear. But Dobbins did last week, and it was really encouraging to see it, and I was really happy for the guy. We'll go to you, Rupert. What's your surprise that made you happy this week?
I probably shouldn't have put this since I wasn't too surprised, but it was really good to see as a longtime Rashid Shaheed fan club owner to see him just like completely ball out, torch dudes, even though it was against my Panthers. It was really good just to watch him just dominate this weekend. I think there's a good year ahead for him, and as a consistent like sleeper pick for me, it was good to see in week 1.
Yeah, finished as the PPR wide receiver 15 on the week. Now, a lot of that came on one big play, and that is kind of his MO. I think he'll probably continue to be kind of a boom or bust player week to week and not a high target earner, but we'll see. Definitely an encouraging. I mean, moving from more of a situational player to being kind of a full-time wide receiver for them, and looked pretty good doing it. So, Jackson, what is your surprise that made you happy this week?
Look, anybody that knows me for the last 4 or 5 years has known I've been the leader, the bus driver, the person leading the cavalry on the Tank Bigsby fan club. I loved him so much in college. Was going to buy a jersey. Didn't end up buying a jersey for Tank Bigsby, but that's neither here nor there. Love myself some Tank Bigsby, and he never really, at least in the previous season, just didn't really put it together. Travis Etienne had a chokehold on that running back room. So I was really happy to see Tank Bigsby not only get split carries with Travis Etienne, but actually look like the better running back. Had more yardage, averaged more yards per carry. I don't know if this is going to be the norm, but if this is the norm that we're going to see out of Tank Bigsby, I am just going to be so giddy to watch Jaguars football.
Yeah, I know he said we weren't going to react to each other's, but I got to say I was a big fan of Tank Bigsby as a prospect as well. I believe I had him as my RB 4 or 5 in the class, like behind HN, and I believe I had him ahead of like Charbonnet, Kendre Miller, Tajay Spears, and that looked like just a terrible call for most of last year. And I think a lot of it was they had a plan and a role and vision for him that he was going to be the bruiser to go along with ETN as kind of the electricity. And he fumbled early in the red zone, and they doghoused him all year long. And so I kind of left him for dead. I didn't sell any of my shares or drop them. I just left him at the end of my bench, but I didn't have a lot of hope or excitement that he would do anything. And so this was a pleasant surprise for me, not from I didn't think he had the talent to do it, but it just seemed like the team didn't believe in him and he wasn't going to get any touches. And so, yeah, it seems like they've kind of given him a second chance to earn the role that they envisioned for him when they drafted him. And hopefully he kind of continues this and the fumble issue is a thing of the past and kind of re-earns the team's trust there. So Tank Bigsby could be a surprise asset on your fantasy teams if you just had him laying around on a bench, dynasty bench, thinking he's a roster clogger. Now all of a sudden you might be able to use him at times. So That's going to do it for this show. We are going to have a bonus podcast right after this that will be up on the website for subscribers. So if you are one of the people that has already subscribed to the Couch Scouts, we will see you on that bonus show. And for the rest of you guys, we'll see you next week. Don't forget to leave a 5-star review on whatever podcast platform you're listening on. And if you're on YouTube, like, comment, subscribe, all that. It just helps people find our channel. We really appreciate it. You can find me at CouchScoutsFF on social media. You can find Mr. Jackson at DevyMatt, and you can find Mr. Rupert at Matthew Rupert FF. So definitely follow us on there, engage with us. We'd love to talk to you guys and join the Discord. So we'll see you guys next week. Thanks for listening.